Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably already know that this is the beginning of my deep dive year into the Thoth system, the deck created by Lady Frieda Harris and Alistair Crowley. And this is the first lunar cycle of that year. And so I've done 2 readings already with the Thoth Tarot. The first one was focused around worry, if you remember. The second one was around indolence. I know, these words are pretty dark considering every time I lay a spread, the question I ask is, how can we live more intentionally in the coming week? And probably you already noticed from the title of this week's video, the key word for this whole spread is prudence. So what does prudence mean for living an intentional life? Well, we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, what things come to mind? What do you think of when you think of prudence? Do you think of caution? Stepping back? Perhaps even resisting action? Those are things that come to my mind. But I think this week's spread is going to give us a different perspective on how we can imagine prudence in relationship to living an intentional life. Because we know living an intentional life asks us to be open to the powerful current of intention which will carry us forward into our evolution, which will allow us to experience the things that we want to experience in the future or in the coming time, in the ever-present now. We never experience things in the future, right? We only experience things in the ever-present now. So intention moves us through the continuing evolution of ourselves in the ever-present now to allow us to experience those things we want to experience, have the things we want to have, the relationships, the money, the homes, the family, the travel, the work, the creation, the artistic creation, the creation of food, all of those things, and more, much more, are included in our powerful current of intention. But it's always in the ever-present now as we evolve into those people who will have those experiences, who have those experiences. I keep wanting to put the future in there, and the future doesn't exist. Only the ever-present now exists. Now and now and now and now and now, right? So, what does prudence have to do with it? How does prudence allow us to be more open? Well, we're going to explore that today. So, friends, what am I going to do? I am going to show you the entire spread, and then we'll talk about that really briefly, and then we'll get into the specific parts of the spread and read them in detail. So, friends, if you're ready, come along with me. This is the spread that I've been using for this lunar cycle, and I might continue it on for a little bit longer because I'm just starting to get a feel for how to read it better. But you saw what probably looked like 3 decks there, right? What did you think of them? Did you recognize that 2 of them were actually the same deck in different form? I have in the center what was originally a mass-produced, very easy to get Harris-Crowley Thoth deck that I lopped off 3 of the borders on. So that's my trimmed version of the Thoth Tarot. And then around the sides there were 4 cards from the mini version, the travel version of the Thoth Tarot. Same art by Lady Frieda Harris, same design, but with the borders and smaller. And then on either end there were 2 oracle cards, right? Those, well, they were oracle cards. Maybe you know that, maybe you don't. But they were oracle cards. They're oracle cards from a deck that is based on the I-Ching, which is currently in its 2nd run on Kickstarter at the time of this video recording. So I'll put a link to that deck below, and I'll also have links to the large and the small version of the Thoth Tarot below. The Thoth are all mass market, easy to get anywhere. I'll have Amazon links down there, but you can buy them, like I said, anywhere. Yeah, so what are we going to do? Now, if just in case you are a first-time visitor, let me give you a brief overview of the spread. Yeah, there were 6 cards in the center, 3 on top, 3 below. We're going to read those sets of 3 separately. The 3 on the top are the conscious elements of the spread. The 3 below are the unconscious or the below the surface elements of the spread. And then we're going to look at those 6 cards again, and we're going to read them in a very special way. Yeah, and I'll tell you about that later. Then we're going to look at the 4 cards around the 6-card central part of the spread, and those represent the elements. Yeah, fire, water, air, and earth. We'll read those, and we're reading with elemental dignities here. And then finally we'll look at the advice cards at the opposite ends of the spread from the I-Ching. Okay, friends, that's what we're going to do. So here we go into the top 3 cards of the central section of the spread. Here they are. You saw the 3 cards from left to right were the King of Discs, which I think is just a gorgeous card. One of my favorites in the deck. Not necessarily my favorite as far as meaning, but my favorite as far as image. I just love that guy on the horse in well, we'll get to it in just a moment. And then we had the 8 of Discs, which is another earth card. And then we had the 9 of Cups, a water card. And elementally, all 3 of those cards are very copacetic. Actually, water helps to raise up the attributes and the essence of the earth suit card, which is the center card of this top line of 3. Because we're going to read the central card first. The card on the left modifies that, and then the card on the right modifies those 2. So it's really an earthy lineup at the top. So we start off with, like I said, Prudence. And here's the Prudence card right here. The 8 of Discs. You see that this is the Sun in Virgo. Now, when the Sun does not, for me, naturally reside in Virgo. The 3 planets that I would naturally associate with Virgo would be Mercury, which is the planet for the Virgo domicile of Virgo. And then we would have Saturn for Capricorn, the Capricorn house of Virgo. And then we would have Venus for Taurus, the Taurus house of Virgo. But we don't have any of those 3 planets. We have the Sun. So what that is starting to make me think of is when people have their sun sign of Virgo, which would, again, bring up I would think, maybe all 3 decanates of Virgo, right? So all aspects of Virgo. Both the mutable, all 3 of the mutable. How do I say this? So there are 3 decanates of Virgo. There would be the mutable aspect, the cardinal aspect, and then the fixed aspect, going in order, of mutable Earth's vital attributes entering our world. If that makes any sense to you. So the core is mutable Earth, but we've got the mutable of mutable, we've got the cardinal of mutable, and then we've got the fixed of mutable, going in order from Virgo to Capricorn to Taurus. And I'm doing this all in my head. I didn't print that out for you, and that's why it's taking more time. So what does that mean? The sun. So if your sun sign or my sun sign or all of our sun signs were Virgo, then we would have all of those, one of those 3 aspects as part of our core essence, right? So this card, though, would have all of them, I would think. All of those aspects of Virgo, where we'd have that fixed beauty aspect of wanting to figure things out. We would have the I'm going to succeed aspect of figuring things out. And then there's the figuring things out and putting things in order of Virgo, right? Mercury in Virgo. So what is this card actually telling us? Well, according to Crowley, there's a sort of strength in doing nothing at all, which is a little odd for Virgo because Virgos really like to do stuff, especially organize things and make plans and do that kind of thing. But in this card, do you see the 8 discs are kind of like flowers, right? And each one of those discs has a wilting leaf above it that is wilting in the sunlight, but it's at the same time also sheltering the flowers below. So one of the things that this card is asking us to do is to take the time. Take the time to consider before doing things. Yeah, this is a card of new cycles starting. The recommendation is to keep hard at work, and that patience and prudence will be rewarded. So patience and prudence. Not the prudence of, I'm not going to, well, there is a little bit of that I'm not going to do anything aspect to this card. But there's also the prudence of, I'm going to be very precise and very patient about what I am doing. I'm going to act prudently. But there's also the suggestion that we might want to retire from a situation, not get involved with other people's stuff, and instead keep an eye on it. Because we can trust that we will know when it is the right time to act. Instead of leaping into the fray and getting involved with everybody else and doing something, step back and watch for the right time for our action, because if we do that, then our action will be the most effective and we will waste the least energy. Leave things as they are instead of prodding them to make them be what we want them to be, which is sometimes a thing that Virgos do, especially my mom. My mom is a Virgo sun, and she pokes at stuff until it gets to be the way she thinks it should be. That's not what this card is telling us to do. This card is telling us to leave things as they are, be prudent, watch out for when the timing is right, and then, as they say, leap when the iron is hot. Strike when the iron is hot. That's it. Strike when the iron is hot. That could be one aspect of this card. So that's the core message for this week. It's not resisting action. It's leaving ourselves open to acting when the time is right. It's a very fine distinction, right? Because we see something, we think, yeah, let's get in there. And we might think, no. That could be a resistant response. So we want to be very clever. We see something, we think that we want to engage in, we think, okay, let's wait for the right time. I think that's what this card is asking us to do, which might not actually be very easy for a Virgo, because I think Virgos want to leap in there and get things done, get things organized, right? All you people who are doing all this stuff, come on, let's whip each other, I'm going to whip you into shape. Now, the thing that is going to modify this card is very interesting. It's Virgo again. Yeah? The Knight of Discs. The Knight of Discs, which would be the King of the King of Pentacles for me in a Smith-Waite deck, which is Fire of Fire for me. Yeah? The Kings and in the Smith-Waite and the Knights in this deck are the fire element of the court, and this is Fire of Earth. I'm sorry, I said Fire of Fire, didn't I? Fire of Earth. And so the majority of this card resides in Virgo. A little bit of Leo at the one end, but a lot of this card resides in Virgo. So that's the way I'm going to read this card. So we have Virgo, which is the domicile of Mercury, from which mutable Earth's vital attributes are entering our world. So we've got an extra dose, a little bit of a highlighting of the Mercury aspect, the first decan, well, for me it would be the first decanate of Virgo. But I think according to Crowley, that would make this the second decadent of Virgo. But I'm just going to keep it my way. So this would be the first decadent of Virgo. This is Virgo of Virgo, mutable Earth's vital attributes entering our world. And Crowley associates this with hexagram 62, which is the bird. The bird is, according to Crowley, has the potential of frivolity. The bird can fly beyond its capability and the reality of the situation. Yeah, the bird can sometimes go too far, according to Crowley, and can has the potential of frittering away its energy. So it's something to be careful of here. And this card is asking for patience, to avoid unrealistic ambition, idle dreams, and wasting time, and being patient. But we also want to be straightforward, earthy, and passionate, because this is fire of earth, right? So we might be passionate, we might be imaginative, but also patient and solid. So we engage our imagination when we think very practically on very concrete actions that could be imagined, rather than flights of fancy, which would be, according to this card, for us now, a waste of energy. So there's a powerful force over a long period of time for this card. Things must be done with implacable, unwavering certainty. Yeah, we don't want our energy or our focus to waver, and we want it to continue over a long period of time, using our energy over a long period of time. So it's that aspect of prudence, right? Where we've got the new cycle starting, and we want to approach that new cycle with the determination of doing what we have decided to do for the long term. We're not leaping into short-term flights of fancy or, hey, let's try this out, let's try that out, which sometimes is perfect. Right now, this card is asking of this card, earthy, passionate, imaginative, but patient and solid movement forward, as we also are patient and avoid unrealistic ambitions, and we wait for the right time to begin the thing that is new. Does that make sense? So this card is asking of us to keep hard at work and observe the situation for when it's really time to start the new cycle. And this card is telling us that once we begin the new cycle, once we actually engage, we want to use our power and our perseverance and our unwavering certainty over the long run, over the long haul, realistically. So, what does that bring us? Where does that take us? That takes us to a wonderful card, the Nine of Cups, which is, you can see, Jupiter in Pisces, which gives us mutable water's vital attributes entering our world, entering the question of this spread. Mutable water is entering mutable earth, and they lift each other up, they feed each other in a receptive way. In a receptive and mutable way, but they feed each other very beautifully. So, with that Mercury, with the Virgo decadent of Virgo highlighted so strongly, here we have the Jupiter decadent of Pisces. The Pisces decadent of Pisces, you could say. So, mutable aspect of mutable water is entering this question, which is what? Happiness. Now, Jupiter in Pisces is expansive and brings the fortune of deep emotions and happiness expanded. Jupiter here also allows us to celebrate, to celebrate in order to create or reward happiness. Yeah? To celebrate, to create happiness, to make a happy atmosphere, but also to reward our happiness. Because our happiness is our purpose here. When we reach happiness, when we reach satisfaction, when we reach joy and love, we're doing what we came here to do. And so a way to reward ourselves, to pat ourselves in the back, is to 9 of Cups it, to celebrate that. It's the wine poured by Ganymede for the gods, especially for who? Especially for Jupiter. And that love relationship. True wisdom, self-fulfilled in perfect happiness, is here. So, again, this is both the process and the reward. And we add that into the mix with our prudence and our patience and moving straightforwardly with resolution, with unwavering certainty. And that could be done in several ways. It could be done in a way of drudgery. It could be done in, okay, so I've got to put my nose to the grindstone, and I've got to keep working and keep going. I've got to be steadfast. I've got to be strong, and I've got to beat myself up. That's one way of approaching that. But this card is reminding us that we can also approach it with joy, with happiness, with celebration. So, this is the celebration of prudence. And moving through that celebration of prudence as the Knight of Discs, I think, is the key. Does that make sense? Can you see how celebration and expanse of deep emotions can help to feed our energy, to do the work of, and to celebrate the work of, and to enjoy the work of the 8 of Discs and the King of Discs? Does that make sense to you? I hope so. Now, friends, we're going to take a look at the under the surface cards. What is below the surface, or what is in the unconscious for us in this environment of joyful prudence? Hey, maybe that's the title of this, or happy prudence. That's it. I think that's the title of this video. Happy prudence, because happy means a couple of things. Happy, joy, but happy also can mean fortunate in the older sense. If we think of Shakespeare, the way Shakespeare used the word happy also meant a happy accident. Yeah, a fortunate accident. So, happy prudence. There we go. Okay, let's see what's below that. What is burbling under the surface? Here they are. Here are the cards. Friends, the 3 cards you just saw burbling there beneath the surface were, from left to right, Lust. Now that's an interesting card, right? And then we had the 2 of Swords, and then we had the 9 of Wands. Now, you know, we start with the central card, so we're going to start with the central 2 of Swords. Now you see the 2 swords there crossed at the very center. You can see that there is a rose there, I believe. Let me double check. Yes. Well, it's a, or is it a lotus? I think it's a lotus there in the center. Which is interesting because the 2 of Swords is associated with this deck with the moon in Libra. And now the moon would not naturally be in Libra. The moon is a water sign planet for me. And would naturally reside in one of the decanates of the 3 water signs, which are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. But here it is in a Libra, which is interesting. The name of the card is Peace, which is good to have. Below, supporting prudence, is peace. And according to what I searched out on my own, the moon in Libra, people with the moon in Libra are excellent planners, and strategizers. So that supports prudence pretty well, right? Our ability to plan and strategize would help us to interact with new cycles and being able to notice when the time was right for us to jump in and participate in what's going on around us. The Two of Swords is for those of is to highlight our ability to be positive and sympathetic. And according to Crowley, we want to remember that peace is a dynamic process. It's not okay, we've achieved peace. It's not a solid base upon which we want to build. That's usually what we think of when we think of peace. Okay, so first we get peace, then everything will be solid, and then we build upon that. According to Crowley, he wants us to imagine peace as something that's more fluid. Or like an airplane flying. Now, an airplane, when it flies from one place to another, for example, from San Francisco to Seoul, it does not go in a straight line. It cannot go in a straight line. What happens is, let me point it towards you. For example, I'm San Francisco, you are Seoul. This airplane does not go like this. What happens is the airplane goes like this, and then like this, and then like this, and then like this, like a fish swimming upstream in a current. Or even downstream, it does the same thing, right? So that's how he wants us to imagine peace. That peace is not something that's fixed, but something that asks for flexibility, for mutability, for our ability to change, to go with the flow, to adapt. That's the peace he's talking about. Not the peace of the sedentary peace, but the active, dynamic peace. That's what this card is asking for. So we're asked to think carefully and quietly. Not talk a lot now. Be a little bit reserved. Pull back mentally. This is not the time to disturb the peace around. So remember how we were supposed to step back and observe and be open to when it's right, when the time is right for us to engage, to interact? The same thing is here with the Two of Swords, where we think carefully and quietly. We don't disturb what's going on around us. We do not rush to make decisions. We maintain our calm and our patience. And we allow others to take action and reveal themselves to us. We don't have to, according to this card, we don't have to sneak around the back rooms to figure out what people are doing. Instead, we can just allow people to be how they're going to be. Let them act in the world, and we can see who they are. That way. Now, their fruits are of their labors. Their fruits will reveal their actions they're taking. The fruits of their labor. Good fruits, good intentions. Bad fruits, not so good intentions. So, instead of feeling like we have to figure it all out, we can also observe, what are people doing? What's going on out there? Just look, be aware. And that card is being emphasized, is being assisted by the Lust card. Now, below we had air and fire. And air and fire, while they don't exactly mix well with water and earth as combinations, they are separated in this spread in a very interesting way, that they're either neutrally walking parallel paths, or they are supporting each other. We don't have any direct conflict in the group of 6 cards that I've noticed yet. We'll look at that in more detail in just a moment. But I haven't noticed any conflict. And here below, fire and water support each other. Now, the fire of lust and the fire of the Nine of Wands supports and gives energy to the Two of Swords. So, what is this? This lust card is just amazing. There's so much here. Yeah, you see the woman of this is the woman of Babylon riding the beast. But if you look at the beast, we see that their beast is made up of 7 different heads. And we'll get to those heads in just a moment. The woman is holding up the what is it called? The Grail. And from the Grail is beaming streams of light. There are 10 streams that go to 10 orbs, which lead to 10 serpents. I'm sorry, 11. 11 orbs, which lead to 11 serpents. So this is also the beginning of a new tree of life. The serpents and the 11 orbs and the 11 serpents are the seeds for a new tree of life, for the new eon. Does that make sense? And lust here is associated with Leo, which is the domicile of the sun. There's a lot of sun in this. There are a couple of suns, there are a couple of Virgos, there are a couple of moons, which is interesting. There are 2 of each, actually. So we've got the sun here in Leo, echoing the sun in Virgo a little bit. So from here, we've got fixed fire's vital attributes entering our spread, entering our world, entering our natal charts. And lust connects Chesed and Geburah. Chesed is loving mercy, Geburah is severity and justice. So this card links that dynamic pair, that dynamic duo of the Tree of Life, which are the 2 hands of the Tree of Life, which form reality. And the thing that links the right hand and the left hand of the Tree of Life here is lust. And it's associated with the joy of strength exercised, according to Crowley. Now, lust for him is the Hebrew letter Teth, which is new life, and also a serpent, which makes sense because there are serpents up here at the top. Do you see those serpents? Yeah, these windy things coming off of the beam of light going up to the top. Those windy things are serpents. So, new life and serpent, which is ancient wisdom, we might say. And because it's Teth, we also have the rune Hargaz, which is destructive sometimes, but also unpredictable. It's an unpredictable force. The unpredictable aspects of nature, where suddenly a bright, sunny, beautiful, bountiful day, and then suddenly a hurricane comes in. And then it's a beautiful, bountiful day. Yeah? That unpredictability of those aspects of nature. And also our inner nature, the unpredictability of our unconscious. For both good and difficulty. Also, Hargaz can be perfect inner harmony. So that's why we want to maintain the peace here, is because of those potentials, I think. The unpredictability. There's power here that we can't quite control. And so we want to be at peace, dynamic peace, to be able to negotiate that power, that unpredictability. And the new life, and the way the serpent moves. The way serpents move are also like this, right? So it's that aspect of the Two of Swords that is being strongly emphasized here. So lust is several things. It can be energy. Yeah, lust, libido, the energy which drives us our psyches. Action, that lust, that libido put into action, creating in the world. It can be the libido of sex as well, which is more of a Freudian thing, right? But there's also libido directed into magic, sex magic as well as other magic. It's our drives and our passions expressed in the world, creating in the world. So, while we are at peace, we don't want to have a passive attitude towards peace, right? We want to have a passionate, active, energetic, dynamic approach to peace. Now, another thing that's really interesting about the lust card, because we have 7 heads in this beast, it suggested that we might ask 7 different questions of the topic at hand. Now, there are 7 heads in the beast, and I won't point them out to you because it's too far away from the camera. But one of the heads is an angel. So we might ask, what aspects of blank lead to a deeper relationship with the universe? So the blank here, I think, is peace. That dynamic peace. Thinking carefully and quietly, not disturbing people around, but observing and seeing how those people around, as they act, reveal themselves, right? So what aspects of peace lead us to a deeper understanding of the universe? Well, our observation of the universe is like the universe observing us, right? We observe the divine to know the divine better, and the divine observes us to know itself better through us, right? Part of our being separated, not completely separated, but differentiated aspects of the divine is so that the divine can understand itself and enjoy itself and revel in itself from and through us. And the best way for that to happen is perhaps through peace. And the next question is related to the saint in this beast, is in what way are our values being met by peace? So, we might want to ask how our values, how we appreciate the world around us, how we observe the world around us, can be colored by our stance of peacefulness, a dynamic peacefulness. Now, how can our ability to be dynamically peaceful inform our values? And then the next question is through the poet head. There's a poet in here. What is the role of this peace in the narrative of my life story? Well, hopefully, peace as part of our life story, it could be the central message of living an intentional life. Now, that dynamic flow through the ever-present now of the power of intention, like flowing through the currents of water, dynamically peaceful, open, peaceful. That's living an intentional life, is it not? Now, along with the poet, there's an adulterous woman in here, according to Crowley, which asks us, what are the roles that might be broken in fulfillment of peace? Are there roles that we play that might be in opposition to peace, that we might break in order to maintain our peace? Can you think of any of those in your life? Those are the ones that we want to set aside for now, I believe. This is not the time for, again, leaping into action blindly in a blind adventure. We want to step back, we want to observe, we want to maintain our peace. So our role as the adventurer leaping into the unknown would be broken. We all have that aspect within us, whether we recognize it or not. Right now, that role is broken. What other roles could be broken for you to maintain our dynamic peace? Now, there's also a man of valor here, reminding us again of that, like the Knight of Wands, who in the Smith-Waite deck, the Knight of Wands who leaps into the unknown for an adventure, That role is being broken. Well, here we have also a man of valor. So what aspects of peace require bravery to enact? Dynamic peace might not be an easy choice sometimes. So we might want to consider what aspects of peace are going to ask of us our bravery to do something that is unusual for us or uncomfortable for us or something that we don't usually do in order to maintain our stance of dynamic peace. There's also a satyr in here. A satyr, right? Like Pan is a satyr. Yeah, the goat's legs, the human body, horns, maybe plays a panpipe. The satyr. What aspects of the piece feel wild and unfettered? Is there a way to be dynamically peaceful in a wild, unfettered, kind of like fish flying, bird flying through the air, fish swimming through the water? Is there a wild and it's that dynamism, right? It's the dynamism of the piece that might be wild and unfettered, where we're not going in a straight line. We've got to dance through the water, dance through the air in a natural, maybe satyr-like way. And there's also a lion serpent here. The serpent with the lion's head, which is a traditional image of the original creator of the material universe and of the first conception of human beings. Before life was breathed into the human, the first attempts at creating human beings was done by this lion serpent. So, what is the mystery at the heart of peace? Could it be that peaceful observation is the way for us to be the most creative? Maybe. Because we're the most open, we're flowing the most dynamically, maybe we're the most creative then. We're able to manifest the most when we are being dynamically peaceful. So, those are the questions to ask. Yeah? The question of the angel, the saint, the poet, the adulterous woman, the man of valor, the satyr, and the lion serpent. Intriguing, interesting questions, right? And so, but we can see how that dynamic piece is emphasized, it's strengthened by all of those questions. It asks both our patience and our values and our wild, free, unfettered selves, and breaking some of our roles in order to maintain it. But it's at the same time the bravery to enact it. And maybe breaking some of those roles is what might require or ask of us our bravery. So these two cards here, are now being supported by this card, are being modified by the Nine of Wands. And here at the Nine of Wands, we see the sun above, the moon below. And this is the moon in Sagittarius. And the moon, again, does not really belong in Sagittarius, just like the moon does not belong in Libra, according to me. But many of us have their moon in Sagittarius, right? So those of us who do have our moon in Sagittarius, I do not, my moon is in Pisces, but those of us who have the moon in Sagittarius are known for their passion for learning, seeking the truth about people and the world. So maybe that dynamic piece, which is enlivened by and fired up by the lust card, is asking of us to seek the truth about people in the world dynamically, peacefully. If that makes sense. And Crowley says that the Nine of Wands is like the Aikido master. Yeah, an Aikido master Aikido is a martial art, right? The Aikido master who is constantly moving and redirecting movement. Can you imagine a martial arts master doing that in constant motion? Not like some of the kung fu poses where you're poised and ready and waiting for the time to attack. Now, the Aikido master, according to Crowley, is the one who is in constant motion, but ready to just quickly and easily, at exactly the right time, redirect movement into the direction that the Aikido master wants. So, for example, you come in with a punch to hit the Aikido master, and the Aikido master at exactly the right moment redirects that force back towards the aggressor or towards something else. Applying small energy at the precise moment for great effect. So maybe that's what our dynamic piece is asking us to be ready to do. So we're not getting into the fray, we're observing people and allowing them to reveal themselves as we keep our lustful, fiery selves alive here in the air of Libra. So that at the exact right moment we can just took and everything will move into place, right? So everything here is pointing to the wanted thing and asks for the gentle guiding of energy along its way. Perhaps in peaceful, in dynamic peace. Yeah, everything is moving in the right direction, and so. But sometimes things veer a little bit off course, and so like the Aikido master, when things start to veer off, just took into place. Oh, back in here. Back, okay, back. Does that make sense? And I'm thinking more of, like, imagine things moving through the vacuum of space, which isn't a real vacuum we're discovering. It's like not the vacuum, like it has nothing there. There's a lot of stuff there. But through what we think of as the vacuum of space, how things can seem to... Have you ever seen video images of people either on the space shuttle in orbit around the Earth, or in a space station in orbit around the Earth, and how things float, but they don't just stay still. They slightly move. You know what I mean? And so to get things to go in the direction you want to go, you don't throw them hard. You don't ask for velocity. You move them in the direction, and then sometimes you just took them into the right direction, right? Think of this like that. Everything's pointed to the thing that is wanted, and it's asking for gentle guidance along its way. Perseverance and moving onwards towards our goal. So again, perseverance or perseverance, depending on where you're from, is one of the key words for this spread. Keep on going, like the Knight of Discs. Which is interesting, right? So, friends, that's what we've got above and below. Above, prudence; below, peace. Dynamic peace. Active prudence. To live our intentional lives. Now, friends, we're going to look at these 6 cards together. And we're going to read them in a special way. Maybe if you're a returning visitor, you probably already know the directions, but I'll show you a picture that will show you the way we're going to read these 6 cards together. 2 sets of 3 again, but in a special way. Take a look at this picture. So, friends, you saw those 2 sets of lines, right? The blue line and the kind of yellowish line. So we're going to start off with the central top card and the 2 cards below which support that card. So we start off again with Prudence at the top center, which is, just as a reminder, new cycles, keeping hard at work, but not actively engage in situations until we see that it's the right time to harvest. Leave things as they are instead of prodding them into place. Letting things run a course until it's time, the exactly right time for us to enter into the situation and either do what we need to do or harvest what is ripe to be harvested. That's the Eight of Discs. And again, this is an Earth card. The two cards that are supporting this Earth card are two Fire cards. Now, Earth and Fire are not antagonistic. They're not mutually supportive, but they're not antagonistic either. So here, the first supporting card is Lust, from below. So our libido, our lust, our vital energy, and our magic, our perhaps even sex magic, and our passion can support our prudence, right? Keeping hard at work asks for our inner libido, our inner drive to keep doing that, and while still being patient and prudent and waiting for the time to be ripe. So our lust, our libido supports that, as well as another fire card, which is the Nine of Wands, which is asking us to, again, observe, and instead of taking a hammer to smash things into place, watch as things move, and when the time is right, just move them back into their right course of trajectory. Like the Prudence card, where we don't get fully engaged in a situation, we observe it, we do our work, we observe the situation, and then so when the Nine of Wands time is right, we just reach out and things back into place. And then we keep things, we watch things moving forward as a good burgle would, and then when the time is right, when we see something going off course just a little bit, we don't go and fix everything, we just that one thing back into place. Does that make sense to you? So that's how our unconscious energy can be directed through the Nine of Wands, so that we are using our libido, again, not like a sledgehammer, but in the energy to keep moving forward with prudence, and also to, when the time is right, to just move things back into place, so that we keep moving forward in the ever-present now, in the direction of our evolution to the people who have the experiences we want to have. Those experiences being, again, anything, a relationship, a job, a home, a family, whatever it is, an artistic creation, a song we want to sing, anything. We evolve to be those people who have those experiences, and in the ever-present now, in that evolution, we sometimes want to be aware that it's time to slightly move things back into the trajectory that we want to be on. So, what is below? What is below these three cards? What is below? The central card below the Eight of Discs was the Two of Swords. And now the Two of Swords would be a natural enemy to the Eight of Discs. Fire and earth do not mix. However, one thing I did not mention. One thing I forgot to mention. Now, with the Lust card and the Eight of Discs, they're both the sun. So there's a lot of power here. Now, there's a lot of power from below that is feeding, that is energizing the Eight of Discs, Prudence, and Patience card. This is a very energized, powerful patience. Not a tense, I gotta wait kind of, but a powerful, anticipatory, expectant, waiting for the right time kind of patience. Like a cat. Have you seen cats patiently waiting to leap into action? They're not tensed up and like, okay, is it time? No, they're sitting there. They're poised. They're calm. They're quiet. They're peaceful. We'll get to that in just a second. But it's not that calm and quiet, while it looks like it lacks energy, is hyper vigilant. It's hyper aware. So that when the time is right, the leap can happen. Not on a, well, yeah, I guess it is aggressive, but in that way, a lot of energy, almost all of the energy is conserved until the exactly right moment when the cat is successful, right? So again, below this card, we have this card, which would be that top card's natural antagonist, but here it's supporting from below. Two of Swords, peace, dynamic peace, thinking quietly, carefully, not disturbing things around, but being observant and aware of what's happening and who people are and what they are doing. That is supported by, from above, the Knight of Discs. And Earth and air are mutually, they're not mutually supportive, they are mutually neutral. So we can do that work of peace, dynamic peace, with the patience and the straightforward earthiness of the Knight of Discs, the fire of Earth. Acting implacably, unwaveringly, and with certainty, and patiently, following the dynamic peace. And those two are also supported by how? With what attitude? With the attitude of happiness. Again, we're not doing peace because we're afraid something's going to go wrong. We're not doing peace because, damn it, we've got to get this thing together. And we want to do peace with this, with the happiness and joy of Jupiter and Pisces, of celebrating the dynamic peace. Because it's the celebration of the peace that is both the way to maintain and continue it, as well as to pat ourselves on the back for having gotten there in the first place and being there now. The wine poured by Ganymede and navigating that wine in dynamic peacefulness with true wisdom. So we have a lot of dynamic, active prudence and patience from above, and beneath we have a joyful kind of peace that is also active and dynamic. And that's a way to live an intentional life, right? I think so. So we have 4 elemental cards to take a peek at right now. Now, I haven't said this verbally before in any of the other videos, but friends, you know what? You don't have to watch all of the video in one sitting. If you're ready, you can pause the video and go and do other things and come back to it tomorrow. Remember, you don't have to watch these videos all in one sitting. But for me, I'm going to leap right on over and take a look at those 4 elemental cards right now. Here they are. You just saw the 4 elemental cards. And I'm going to read the cards off again, starting in the upper left-hand corner, going clockwise. But that's not the way we're going to read this spread, right? But let me just call off the cards right to refresh your memory. Now, we started off with the Prince of Swords, which is an air card. And then we went to Adjustment in the upper right, which is also an air card. Yeah. Then we go down to the 6 of Wands, which is fire. And then we go to the Knight of Wands, which is also fire. So we had 2 air cards at the top and 2 fire cards below. We had 2 court cards, 1 major arcana, and 1 plain old little old minor arcana card, right? Now, the upper left-hand corner is where we're going to start, because that's where fire resides. So in the spot for fire, we had the Prince of Swords, which is an air card. Now, according to Crowley, the Prince of Swords spans Capricorn to Aquarius. Most of it is Aquarius, with a little bit of Capricorn at the very beginning. So it's the tail end of Capricorn and then most of Aquarius. Interestingly, both of them bring Saturn into the mix, right? Saturn resides in Capricorn and Aquarius. So Saturn is strong in this card. So here we have, but we're going to focus on fixed air. Fixed air's vital attributes entering our world, because I don't want to mess with Capricorn too much in this, with this court card. Now, Crowley associates this royal with hexagram 57, which is the sun, interestingly enough. Now, we had a lot of sun in the main, well, we had two suns in the main spread, if you recall. Where did we have the sun? We have the sun as the planet for the main card of the entire spread, which is Prudence, right? The sun in Virgo. And then we also had the sun with the lust card. All right, so there's a little bit of sun here with hexagram 57, which is asking for flexibility, yet able to penetrate when focused. Does that make sense? Hexagram 57 as the sun asks of us our flexibility, but also our ability to penetrate when focused, reminding us a lot of like that Aikido concept for the Nine of Wands, right? Where we're, we're flexible like the piece of the Two of Swords, but able to penetrate when focused, able to, with minimal effort, get what needs to be done. So, but the Prince of Swords is a little less controlled, a lot less controlled. Here you see the prince, the prince's arm holding the major sword is bending his body out of shape. There's another rapier in his other arm. The three minor mini-me's of the Prince of Swords down here all seem to be going in their own directions, very different from one another. There's a lack of focus to the movement of this card, a lack of control. And Crowley says in this card, fragmented thought. Even the background looks fragmented, doesn't it? The background looks fragmented. But Crowley also says that that fragmented nature can resolve itself into a pattern if we are observant and patient enough. There's something unfettered from this original. There's something unfettered. What I'm trying to say is there is something untethered from its original trajectory. God, I really am not able to speak English today. Okay, so something was already on a trajectory to reach a desired goal, but has become untethered from that trajectory. So again, bringing back the central message of this week's spread, when that begins to get off course, like the Aikido master, use the minimal energy to bring it back into place, rather than having to chase it down and drag it back, you know, if we wait too long. So this card asks for thought, consideration, mindfulness, intellect, learning, and freedom. All things that we were asked to recall, to give attention to from the main part of the spread. And we want to recognize that our options can change our opinions can change at the drop of a hat. Now, what we think of can change at a moment's notice, and we may need it to change at a moment's notice because we're flowing dynamically with peace. So this is in the fire section. Our passion, we want to be sure that our passion is not running wild. And we don't want to let our passion get off course. We want to, when we notice it's starting to get off course, get it back into direction. Be thoughtful, consider, be mindful, think deeply about what it is we want to do, create. How do we want to direct our libido? How do we want to direct that power from the lust card? And we don't want to land on a fixed air kind of attitude where, okay, I've made my decision, this is the way it's going to be, and this is the way it should be, and if it is, nothing shall ever change ever again, because I now know the best thing, the best way. Sometimes an Aquarian can do that. We don't want that here. Now, the partner for this card here, the rivalrous partner of the Prince of Swords, is down in the water section, right? Fire and water are paired antagonists. Not so much enemies, but they rub each other the wrong way. They're in conflict, right? They have different purposes. Like Venus and Mars are a couple, but they have different purposes, right? So here we have the Six of Wands. We have fire in water. So there's a challenge here. There's something difficult here, emotionally. And the Six of Wands is Jupiter in Leo, which is not its natural place. But an interesting thing of this is, let's see. Okay, so, no, I'm sorry. Okay, let me backtrack. The Six of Wands is Jupiter in Leo, which would be the Sagittarius decanate of Leo, because Sagittarius is Jupiter, right? And we had a little bit of we're going to have a little bit of Sagittarius again right here in the Earth suit, which is the complement of the water suit. So we have the Sagittarius aspect of Leo, from which the mutable aspect of fixed fire's vital attributes enter our world. The mutable aspect of fixed fire being Leo, mutable aspect being Sagittarius, entering our world with the complement of the sun in Cancer. So we got the sun again here as the complement to the Six of Wands, which is victory. The sun highlighting the success of Capricorn, but also Jupiter enjoying and expanding the power and the recognition and the leonine qualities of Leo. So this is the card of victory won, or victory that will be won. But asking us not to get carried away with it. Celebrate knowing that it will pass. Now, if the opportunity comes to celebrate, but don't get attached to the celebration. We want to hold ourselves as we are, and in that way we will continue to be victorious. If we hold ourselves as the ones moving in the direction of victory, rather than the ones who have gotten it all done and are patting themselves on their backs, instead, if we maintain our attitude of moving in the direction of victory, we will continue to succeed. So we congratulate ourselves knowing that that sense of victory will pass in order for us to get the next victory. And so this is energy in complete balanced manifestation. Manifest, and then we don't sit back and relax and say, okay, so all is good now, I can F off if I want to. That's not what this card is telling us to do. This card is keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Yes, that's good. Yes, that's good. Yes, that's good. Yes, that's good. And yes, that's good. And next. And yes, that's good. And next. And that kind of feeling. There's a warning here, though, that it can lead to undesirable developments. Things can go out of control here. And so, because this card is in the emotions and unconscious part of the spread, we want to be careful that our emotions don't drown out our passion. We want to have the flames of that celebration of success. We want those flames to be like candles on lotus pads on the top of a pond. If you can think of it like that, then everything will be hunky-dory. But that's not an easy task. So that's the challenge of this card in the element of water, is we want to celebrate, yes, enjoy our victory, but not get it attached to and dive into the waters of celebration, but rather stay on the surface, because we know that celebratory feeling will pass, but we want to keep moving forward on the surface, keeping the flames of our libido and our desire to create alive and active in the world, rather than sitting back on our haunches and sinking into the waters of celebration. Does that make sense? Does that make sense in harmony with 57, which was the sun? Again, the sun hexagram for the Prince of Swords, which is Saturn in Aquarius. So we want to be clever, we want to be considerate, we want to be mindful, we want to learn, we want to be free, and we want to celebrate our success, knowing that we, instead of, again, diving into that celebration, we keep on the surface of the celebration so that we keep that flame going forward. As we keep our passion vitalized by our Aquarian attitude of again, thought, consideration, mindfulness. And that's that mindfulness that we want to be able to skim the surface of the water element with the Six of Wands. Now we're going to move to the natural element of air, which is in the upper right. And in that section, in that space, we have Libra, which is an air suit, an air sign, I should say. Libra. So we have Libra, which is the domicile of Venus, from which cardinal air's vital attributes enter our world. Cardinal air, our thoughts directed, precise. And this connects Geburah and Tiphereth. So we had Geburah and Chesed connected with lust. Here, Geburah and Tiphereth, severity, justice connected with the heart. Because justice without heart is cruelty. Justice and severity without heart is cruelty. But with heart, it's justice. And adjustment card is associated with the Hebrew letter Lamed, according to Crowley. So that's an ox goad, a stick that you use to get your oxes to move in the direction you want. Kind of like that Six of Wands where we took things into the correct direction. Also, learning and teaching is part of the letter Lamed. Now, the rune would be Jeddah. The associated rune to Lamed is Jeddah, which is harvest, rewards, harmony, and abundance. So, we have abundance and harmony and harvest associated with learning and teaching here in adjustment, which kind of goes with Venus being part of the justice card, adjustment card, and Libra. Now, interestingly, Crowley pairs the adjustment card with the Fool in this way. You see the Alpha and Omega here, Alpha and Omega, the beginning, the end, which join to create one wholeness, right? So the Alpha is the Fool. The Omega here, I guess, would be justice or adjustment, because it's the joining of the divine in perfect balance of its diversity. Now, the divine in absolute diversity in perfect balance with the divine as the absolute oneness of the nothing of the Fool. The potential and of the oneness of the Fool associated with the diverse, divine, perfect balance of diversity in justice. So we're here in that perfect balance of divine diversity. in the mind. So every energy must be applied with integrity. Suspension of activity before action, which we got from that Prudence card as well, right? That's where we want our mind to be. Our mind wants to measure ourselves against what we've decided to accomplish too. And calibrate our reality to our perception. So we want to make sure with this card that we're actually seeing things as we see them as they are. That we're actually seeing things as they are instead of how we want to see them. And we want to calibrate our perception of the world with the reality of the world so that things match up, so that we can be in that perfect divine balance of diversity. And measure ourselves against what we want to become. So we understand where we're going. This card is asking for partnership and equal balance. The harmony that it's called for before action, which is part of, again, that Prudence card, the Nine of Wands card, are all there. So that's where we want our minds to be. So then we're going to move into the earth. And the earth, in the earth section of this grouping of 4 elemental cards, we have the Knight of Wands, Fire of Fire. In the earth, that's hunky-dory. There's no conflict there. Yeah, there's no conflict in air being in the fire section. Actually, air being in the fire section supports the fire. There's no conflict with air in air. That's its natural home. There's no conflict with fire in the earth sign, in the earth section, because fire walks hand in hand peacefully with the earth, because the earth helps feed the fire, and the fire creates more ash, which feeds the earth. The only thing that was a challenge in this section was the Six of Wands in the water element. This is the only thing that's challenging for us now. So let's get back to the Knight of Wands. Fire of Fire. Sagittarius. We got Sagittarius again. Now, Fire of Fire. Sagittarius, which is the home of Jupiter. Jupiter comes back here, from which mutable fire's vital attributes enter our world. And this is associated with hexagram 51 according to Crowley. And according to Crowley, hexagram 51 is the suddenness of thunder. Yeah? Thunder that is surprising. It's also to be apprehensive yet cool, which to me is saying be poised and ready for action. Not intensely poised, but be calm and cool and ready for action. Now, be resolute and energetic as well. With the suddenness of thunder, with the suddenness of thunder. And that's the Fire of Fire for Crowley. So here, the energy of pure action. Getting out and doing stuff here. That's how we want to do the work that we actually do, with the energy of pure action, with generosity as well, with fierceness. Not the fierceness, I don't think, of anger, but maybe the fierceness of fierceness. Yeah? So fierce, right? There's a swift impulsiveness here that could be dangerous, though, because we don't want swift impulses we don't want to follow our impulses swiftly in this spread, right? So that could be challenging, because that could become cruel or brutal, especially in this context. So there's a suddenness, there's an immediateness, there's a risk-taking attribute to this Knight of Wands, and there's also a revolutionary breaking out from the pack and fighting against that which is in opposition to our desires. And all of those things are things that might be that might steer us off course. But when we do act, when we do decide that this is the right time, then I suppose swiftness and following that impulse would be beneficial. We don't want to follow every random impulse, but the one that is in line with our, remember, the dynamic piece and our prudent, patient attitudes with the 8 of coins. When we act, we want to do something bravely and boldly and damn the consequences when we do act. But again, we're not following every little impulse that we get. This is not the time for that. Does that make sense? Can you sense how much, I want to say appreciation, but not the appreciation of thank you, appreciating things, but of observing and using, as Jung would say, the feeling sense. What is good? What is beneficial? What is not beneficial? That kind of appraisal of what things are. That kind of appreciation of events as they are unfolding. That's how we're going to live more intentionally in the coming week. So these 4 cards, I think, were very helpful. The first time we did the 4 elemental cards, if you recall, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 for you, every element was in its wrong spot. Yeah, there was water in the fire spot, there was fire in the water spot, there was earth in the air spot, there was air in the earth spot, and it was just everything in the wrong place, in the week of worry. Here, the only thing that is out of place is the 6 of Wands in the water. So we want to be careful of that. But giving that attention will also allow us to really pay attention to what's going on. Just don't go, yay, and dive into the water, right? This is not the time for that. Okay, friends, we've got 2 advice cards from the I-Ching. Let's take a look at those now. The 2 I-Ching cards that came out for us as advice were, from left to right, hexagram 37, which is wind over fire, and hexagram 17, which is lake over thunder. And let me show you those 2 cards. This is the card hexagram 37, wind over fire, which is harmonious coexistence of family, according to the guidebook for this deck. And then hexagram 17, which is lake over thunder, the importance of getting on with the flow rather than resisting it. The importance of going with the flow instead of resisting it. And my goodness, I'm telling you today, English is not my friend. So, we're going to start off with this one. Harmonious coexistence of family. And let me give you the attributes before I start giving us some nuances to this, because let's just get it out and then we'll talk. Okay, so harmonious coexistence of the family gives us harmony and stability within the household. When family members each play their suitable roles and adhere to their responsibilities, harmony prevails. So, whether you are a man or a woman, or whether you're a cisgender, transgender, intersex, whatever we are, within our families, we have our individual roles to play. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the woman cooks and cleans and the man goes out and does the working and gaining of the money, and the intersex person is the one who stays home and does F all. That's that, or is the one who goes out and I don't know. I'm saying that that's not what this is about. So if the man's role is staying home and taking care of the children, then that is the man's role. If the non-binary person's role is to stay at the home and work work remotely, that is that non-binary person's role. If the woman's role is to be the CEO of a company and has little time to take care of anything at the house. That is the woman's role. Each one of us has a role within the family structure, right? Yes, you're saying no. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, this card is telling us to play our appropriate roles within our family, whatever they be. Nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with sex, nothing to do with how we present in the world. It's what is our place in our families. And if we play our rightful role within the household, whatever that is, respecting and backing other family members who are performing their roles, and maintaining the household's harmony and stability, we will be fortunate. We will have fortune. We will be blessed. That's what this card is. When the structure and order of the family are appropriately maintained, a smooth and auspicious fortune for the family is on the horizon. Things will go well, and better things will be coming in the ever-present now. Okay, so you're probably thinking to yourself, well, F off. I was rejected by my family. I was kicked out of my family. Or I rejected my family. My values are different from my family's values. My family are all Republicans and I'm a Democrat. I'm gay and they don't accept me. I'm a lesbian and they don't accept me. Or I'm a bisexual person and I rejected their heteronormative whatever. Okay, so there are those circumstances. Not everybody is in that circumstance, but there are those of us with those circumstances, and yet this family is not necessarily our biological family. Whatever family, whatever grouping of beings that we associate ourselves with is that family. Whether it's an intentional family, whether it's a family of friends. Yeah, there are groups of friends non-romantically in relationship with each other. Non-sexually, non-romantically, in relationship with each other, can have individual roles, and if we perform those roles and support each other in their roles in that dynamic group, then we're performing the actions of this card as well. Does that make sense? So it could be biological family, it could be intentional family, it could be family of friends, it could be if you're out in the middle of the wilderness and your family is a group of diverse animals. You do you. Whatever that is, there is nothing that we can do. It is impossible for us to be absolutely individual, alone in this physical universe. This entire physical universe is entirely co-creative. And whoever we are co-creating with, we have our role in that interaction. And if we do that properly, correctly, well, then we are fulfilling this card. Does that make sense? And so, in support of and pairing up with that, we have this card, which is Lake over Thunder, the importance of going with the flow rather than resisting. So, some people might think, so with this card, I've got my role, you've got your role, we support each other, and now it's all settled, so it becomes very static and stable, as they say. But this card is reminding us that no, that's not the way we want to understand hexagram 37. We want to understand hexagram 37 through the lens of the dynamic flow of Lake over Thunder. Adapting to circumstances naturally, as the water flows over the rumblings beneath the ground. Now we adapt to circumstances naturally, we avoid forceful actions, we proceed with the cooperative attitude of water flowing and being and resting and moving with the tides of the moon adaptively. A flexible attitude might smooth out many rough edges, which, we gotta be frank, whatever we associate ourselves as a family, whether it is a biological one, an intentional one, or a group of friends, there are always times of where those rough edges appear. And so this, as we're being adaptive, we're flexible around those rough edges, and then they are almost unable to disrupt the flow. Harmonious adaptation in all aspects of life are called for here, so in particular in our role in our group. And when confronted with adversities or challenges, we want to be flexible rather than resist. And isn't that what most of this spread today was about? Flexibility. Being poised and ready, calm, patient, ready, poised, and go with the flow. Be dynamic in your piece. And be ready to act. Perform your role. Perform our roles. Non-resistantly, open, observant, seeing how things are going and what people are doing around us as well. And being able to evaluate whether people are performing their roles in the family unit or not. And then coming in not with the sword of justice, but rather the heart of justice to reestablish balance. So that's how we can do the life of intention in this week. Does that make sense? I think this is a very powerful reading. It was much more powerful than I thought it was when I first laid it out. I hope you think it was powerful too. And friends, if you do, I'm very appreciative when you hit that thumbs up button, so thank you for doing that. And thank you for subscribing to this channel. Those of you who have subscribed, thank you very much. And if you haven't yet, hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. My schedule is going to be I'm going to be doing at least 2 a week, but when they go up is going to be a little bit flexible during this semester because there's a lot of newness here in my life experience these days. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to keep to a rigid schedule. My schedule is going to be flexible, but I'm going to be able to do, I think, everything that I intend to do. So hit the alarm bell, it'll help. And comment below. I would really love to hear from you. What do you think? And if you want a private reading from me, my email address is below. thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, we'll get you a reading. Also, there are links down there, remember? There's going to be a link to the Kickstarter page for this I-Ching Oracle. And if you do see this a little too late to get in on the Kickstarter, they'll probably, I'm sure, they're going to be selling the deck and the guidebook to this deck at their shop. So there will probably be a way for you to find access to that through the Kickstarter. Now you go to the creator's information, the creator's bio, there'll be a website link and you can get there. If you want to know how to do that, ask me in the comments below. I can give you more specific instructions. Okay, friends, there we are. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me on this journey of exploration. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.